What's going on? Alex here. And in this new lesson, we're going to be talking about the downfall of masculinity. So by now, you went through the first initial lesson and you kind of understand the things that we're going to be covering and just the basics of how this program is going to be structured. So now I'm going to be going over overall in this fundamental lesson in this week one is really diving deep into the fundamentals. I really want you to understand what's going on in this world. I really want you to understand the things that you should be aiming for, the things that are blocking you, and the basic fundamentals before we actually get into the cool tactics of nutrition, training, lifestyle, and all these things. I highly recommend that everyone goes through this truly and really understands this because I really want to change your perspective of reality. I really want to change your perspective of how you see the world. And this will help you get to your goal because when I began this journey, I I felt like I was alone. I felt like I was the only different individual and I was really confused of why is everyone so much different? Why am I trying to accomplish these things? Why do I want to be the way I want to be? So in these lessons, I'm going to be really diving deep into why that is, and let's get into it. So first of all, we really need to understand the downfall of masculinity. In the picture, you can see Eve giving Adam the apple, and that was the first start of the downfall of masculinity. But in this specific lesson, we're going to be going to cover feminine energy, masculine energy, the difference between the two, what they are, and how they come into play. We're going to be talking about the identity crisis and how these days men are having an identity crisis. And we're going to be talking about the today's norm and the righteous man. So let's get into it. But before I get into it, let me just set this down. So, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. So, this quote is from a novel by Arthur Michael, and this this is a perfect representation of what's going on in today's world. So, we're currently where the arrow is pointing. We're at the good times create weak men, and soon these weak men will create hard times. So obviously, you being in this program, you probably realize this, and you want to be that strong man who wants to create good times for your future, for your generations, and so on. So that being said, let's get into the initial thing. So the identity crisis. So do you know who you are? Why you're here? What's your purpose? Most men, they don't. Remember, give a weak man consistent sex, good food, cheap entertainment, and he'll throw his ambitions right out the window. Pleasure is a distraction of lack of purpose. Men are confused out here. So, a man who develops himself is born twice. I like the quote, a man is born twice. When he's born, and the second time he's born when he realizes he only has one life. And a lot of you going through this program have realized that you have one life and you want to do your best. And whether you believe whether there's heaven or hell, if you do believe in it, you understand the importance of the things that you do in this life. This chance you got given is very important, and I'm going to be going deeper into things like that. So like I mentioned before, your entire perspective on this world will change once you complete this program. So I'm going to be hitting uh, some nerves with these programs. A lot of things might hit you the wrong way, and remember, like some people don't want to be woken up. They just like being in living in this lie because it sustains them. But let me tell you, I've went through periods of time of like weeks on end of constant like depression kind of states after realizing these things, not because they will affect you that way. It's just realizing like it got me to a point that I have more freedom now because I realized what's actually going on. As in, I couldn't accept the truth, if that makes sense. I was always fighting it. But one thing I learned a lot is the depression is caused by you trying to fight it. But once you accept it and just go with it, life just becomes easier. So let's get into feminine energy. So feminine energy refers to a specific set of traits considered to the opposite of traits associated with masculine energy. Traits that are most often associated with feminine and females overall is, connection, empathy, nurturing, all these nurturing, creative, very feminine, submissive, things like that. But you need to realize masculine men are attracted to women with these feminine traits. The operative word is masculine men. You see some men, they like masculine women because they're not truly masculine men. You see it in gay couples, you see it in lesbian couples. There's always that masculine individual and that feminine individual in that relationship. Feminine women are not attracted to men with feminine traits. Don't get me wrong, there's women that are attracted to men with feminine traits, but these women are in nature more masculine. And I'm going to get into why this is happening, and I'm building up onto this. Then we have masculine energy. Masculine energy refers to the set of traits which is the opposite to feminine energy. Masculine energy nurtures qualities like leadership, action, logic, adventure, focus, assertive, driven, motivated, goal-driven, things like that. Feminine women are attracted to men with masculine traits. For example, there's a reason why women like men with a V-taper, because he has dense androgen receptors. This is a sign of good health. It's a masculine thing. It's a sign of high testosterone. Vice versa. We as men, do you see the way we as men see a girl with a nice ass? It's not because these areas are dense in receptors, which when they are dense, it tells us that she's a healthy individual. You see that urge you get when you see a girl like that. Now, understand that the urge that women get when they see a masculine individual. Masculine men are not attracted to women with masculine traits. Jordan Peterson had a dream.
I had a dream once, and I'm speaking psychologically here, not theologically. I had a dream once. I was in the cemetery of an old church, an old cathedral, surrounded by the graves, and there were indentations in the grounds where all the graves were, and all of a sudden the graves started to open, and it was a graveyard where great people, great men of the past had been buried, and so grave opened and an armed king stood up, and then another grave opened and another armed king stood up, and this happened all around me, and these were very formidable figures, right? They were the great heroes of the past, and after a number of them appeared on the scene, they looked around and saw each other, and being warrior types, they immediately started to fight. And the question is, what stops the great kings of the past from fighting? And I had a revelation after the dream. I can't remember if it was part of it, but yes, it was part of the dream. They all bowed down to the figure of Christ. I thought, and then I woke up and I thought, what in the world does that dream mean? What in the world could that possibly mean? And then I understood it. I understood that if you have 20 kings, let's say, and you took the thing that was most king-like about each of them, and then you combined it into a single figure, then you'd get a single figure of transcendent heroism, of transcendent good. And it's a tenet of the Jungian school of psychology, let's say, that figure of transcendent good is symbolized by the image of Christ. And the purpose of that image is so that even the tyrannical king has someone to bend his knee to. And that's absolutely vital. I mean, you don't have to approach it from a religious perspective, although you inevitably do, because when you speak of things at this level, that's what happens. But you need an image of the transcendent embodied good to serve as something that unites the great tyrants of the past. It's something like that. It's an emergent It's an emergent vision of embodied unity. And it's a psychological necessity. It's a sociological necessity. And I think it bears very strongly on your question about why is it that people matter. It's the classic Western answer to that, the Judeo-Christian answer to that, is because you have a spark of divinity within you, and that divinity is a reflection of this transcendent good. And it's obligatory for me to recognize that in you, and vice versa, if we're going to inhabit the same territory without mayhem, peacefully and with the ability to cooperate. Now you might say, well, the mere fact that a transcendent image is necessary as a uniting figure doesn't prove the reality of that image. But I would say, well, yes, but it doesn't disprove it, and it strongly hints at something more profound, especially when you also ally it with the observation that the encounter with something truly admirable produces the instinct of awe. And that's not a rational instinct, it's an irrational instinct, but it's a marker that you're in the presence of something greater than yourself. And it's not something that you have voluntary control over, it's something that overtakes you. And it could easily be a reflection of the truth. Now you can make a biologically reductionistic argument about that, but it starts to become extraordinarily difficult because you enter into the realm where these transcendent experiences of religious significance and awe are a phenomenological and psychological reality. And it's not easy to explain why that's the case.
So by now you understand how masculine and feminine energy work together. If you don't believe in religion, you don't believe in Christ, just take this as a lesson of how it works. Take a non-religious point of view at it. I'm not trying to push any religion at you. I just feel like Christianity in itself has very good masculine principles. It doesn't mean that you have to believe in them, but they're very fundamental and you can't dispute them. So that being said, you have masculine energy and you have feminine energy. When they come together, they work together prosperity on a purpose. In my head, that purpose is God, because it's a higher thing. You're always striving. It's that perfection. You're always striving towards that. And when you come together, it works amazingly. Now let me show you when these things come out of whack. So what you just seen is the today's norm. But I bet you're like nice, motivated, and driven after you watch the end of that clip. You see that driving motivation. Imagine feeling like that every day. Wake up, that burning desire to take on the world. That's what testosterone does, and I'm going to be getting more into that. But that's just like a free snippet of what you're going to be feeling like once you complete this program and you really take action in every steps. So the today's norm. So before I go down into the next slide, just look at the big picture in the behind. What do you see? So you see the kingdom, you see fire, smoke. It seems like something happened. Then at the front you see looks like two angels and people with them. This what you see behind there is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. So it's the story is located in the book of Genesis, chapter 19. So let me kind of go over what actually happened. So it's basically a story of, okay, so God comes as human and he talks to Abraham, I believe, and uh, the Lord has told him that he hears out the cries from Sodom and Gomorrah. He hears out the wickedness from it, and the Lord came down to actually see if the wicked the feeling that feeling is truth. He actually wants to see it for himself. So he sent two angels to Sodom and Gomorrah. But before that, Abraham told the Lord, because the Lord wanted to destroy the city, and Abraham was like, "Are you going to destroy the entire city? But what if there's righteous people there?" So he said, "Okay, I'm not going to destroy if there's 50 righteous." But Abraham, sorry, but let me just ask you, what if there's 40 righteous? Okay, I won't destroy it then. But what if there's 30, 20, 10, and they keep going on about it? And it comes out to, okay, if there's even one righteous person, I won't destroy it. So he sent two angels out into the city, and they come in, and I believe it was Lot. So the two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he greeted them and he got them into to come into the house. And remember, the city is wicked. The man seen that these two men, which were angels, came into the city, into the house, and they started knocking on the doors, saying things like, "Oh, let them out, let them out, let us have sex with them." And Lot was like, "No, no, these are very important people. No, if you want, you can take my two daughters. They have never slept with a man. Just take them instead." And they were like, "No, no, we want them." And the angels, whatever, they took Lot back and they blinded the men that were trying to get in. And the angels basically explained what's going to happen. And the angels was like, "Do you have any daughters or anyone else that's righteous in here? And we'll take them with them." So basically, they took the righteous people, which is just him and his family, and they were like, "We're gonna destroy the city and do not look back, because if you look, just don't look back." And they were walking, whatever, and there was fire thrown into there was meteors, whatever it was, into the city, as you can see there, and Lot's wife, which was the righteous man's wife, turned around and she turned into stone because she didn't listen. And what you should get from this story is that the ways of the world, the wicked ways, are going to lead to destruction. And another thing is, if you don't listen to the Lord, if you don't listen to these things, these commands, only bad will come with it. So let's get into more of the today's norm. So men are women, women are men in today's world. Men are addicted to pleasure. Seeking pleasure is very feminine. Porn, television, social media, junk food, drugs, whatever it is, you're constantly seeking and feeding your flesh. Men should create value while women receive it. Women look for the biggest building in town while men strive to build the biggest building in town. There's two ways to build the biggest building. Number one, by tearing everyone around you, or two, by building the biggest building. Number one, you see everywhere, especially things like YouTube, TikTok. There's just creators just destroying each other just for extra clout. But in reality, it comes from insecurity, and it's just lack of that masculinity. Like it says in the Bible, if you get hit in the cheek, turn the other. Just let them do it. And the focus, number one focus, you should have a principle in your life: build the biggest building in town. So let's get over the cold hard truth. So in the middle, you see a guy, he's coming against the wind. This is essentially coming against the world. But that struggle is going to lead him to paradise. But if he follows the ways of the world, he will enter hell. Whatever you believe it or not, let me put a different perspective. Hell is essentially a place where you still have your fleshly desired, but you can't fulfill them because like fulfill them like just the way you feel thirsty, you drink some water, you're fine. But in hell, first of all, you're going to have that desire, but you can't fulfill it. And in all aspects, that's why I believe you, as a masculine individual, you need to fight these fleshly urges. Go through things like fasting, social media fasting, and commit to these things because they're just going to benefit you. They're going to lead you in the right direction, fighting the flesh. So you need to realize this program, like I mentioned, is going to be very simple strategies and things like that. But remember, they're going to be hard initially because they're completely against in what you believe. But once you get into that flow, it's easier than ever. Just think about it when there's a spaceship which is about to launch. The launch is the hardest, just to get it off the ground. And once it's off the ground, you just have to keep pushing it, keep pushing it. So this program, the initial start is going to be the hardest. That's why you need to understand that whatever I tell you to do, any action steps that I take you to fulfill, you need to take them because I'm building you up to that launch. So let's go over the righteous man. So being righteous literally means to do right, especially in a moral way. The righteous person not only does the right thing for other people, but also follows the law of their moral law. Let me explain what that means. So, the Ten Commandments are an example of laws which are written in our heart. What do I mean by that? So, if you were to kill someone, you would just feel that guilt inside of you. You feel that guilt because it's written in our hearts. If you commit adultery, which is basically sleeping with your uh, brother's or your friend's wife, after the deed is done, you will feel that guilt in your heart. When you steal something or you tell a lie, you feel that guilt, and it's written very clearly on what we should follow or not. And heroes like Martin Luther King are often called righteous, and in his books, he used to talk a lot about his, like, everything is based on the word, which is Jesus. So the the word was with God, and the word was God, and the word was Jesus. And I'm gonna go over that, what that means, in a sec. And let me just go over the little pinpoint that you can have a look, always look back at it. What does it mean to be a righteous man? So, accepts responsibility for his actions, willing to sacrifice for others, loves God, loves others because they are created in the image of God. Like, if you believe in religion, right? Even though I'm not pushing any religion on you, is we're all created in the image of God. And if you're arguing with someone else, you're basically arguing with God in a sense of he's created in the image of God. Serves others. Jesus came to serve, not to be served. Trustworthy. His word is bond. Like, this is a huge one. Like, these days, like, you can't trust any guys. Like you're talking to guys and they're like, oh yeah, I'll do this, I'll help you out. You don't hear from them ever again. Oh, I'm gonna take on that, I'm gonna go to the gym, they don't do it. They're like little pussies, unfortunately. They just can't commit to what they say. And then I can judge a person by if they say they'll do something for me, and and then keep them accountable, or don't even. Like, a righteous guy is, he tells you something and he does it. I just know a masculine man when I'm talking to him, he says something, just, it's a normal conversation. like we're out or whatever, we're talking, oh, I'll do this for you, these talks. And then he follows up the next, he's like, here, there it is. I'm like, this is a masculine individual. And I bet you do it as well when you're talking with your friends, whatever. I'll do this, I'll do this. Well, you just say that because um, just to say it. But a masculine man will follow up. He remembers these things. If you have to write it down in your notes, do it. Seeks God's approval, not man's. Encourager, has the hard conversation, self-controlled and disciplined. Perfect. So the righteous man. So let me go over a text that's in the Bible that a lot of people, I feel like they don't really understand it. So whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, and I in them. A lot of people think of this as the communion or drinking of the wine. But going back to the thing I said earlier on, the word was with God, the word was God, and the word was God, and the word was Jesus. And another thing, Jesus was the bread of life. So whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me. He's basically Jesus is referring to the Bible, which is God, the word of God. So by you reading the Bible, you come with it. Like, I used to not be a huge believer on reading this, but once I watched a video of Jordan Peterson, how he described how you don't even have to come on a religion aspect. There's a lot of value in here. And let me go over like the books of Shakespeare. There's the books of Shakespeare, and there's like books that come out of it, like uh created, like summarized based on the principles in the book of Shakespeare. Now let me tell you, the fundamental book that all the books are written off of is the Bible. So a lot of the things like that I see on YouTube, because I've done a lot of courses, I've spent a lot of money, I've had courses of over $100,000 combined, and I've seen a lot of things. And by reading the Bible, it's like, oh, this is where they got it from. It's like, for instance, let me give you an example. A lot of men probably understand what a shit test is. If you don't know what's a shit test, it's basically when a woman tested you, she'll be like, oh, what do you mean by that? And a lot of beta guys would be like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean that. You failed the shit test. But a masculine man would be like, that's what I meant. He goes with it. He accepts it. And Jesus even talks about, he's like, if the if you get sued by the law, whatever, and he takes your cloak, give him your cloak also. He's basically referring to, if someone tests you or in any aspect, go with it and give him more. Same with when you're talking to men with the boys. Oh, you're gay. A beta will be, oh, what do you mean I'm gay? But a masculine will be like, yeah, if that makes me gay, I'm super gay. You're not really saying that you're gay, but you're just going with it, and you're just showing that you don't really care, and they will leave you alone because people prey on the weak. So that being said, here's a recap of what we covered. So this lesson was very intense. I covered a lot of things, but the fundamentals are, there's an identity crisis. A lot of men don't realize who they really are. And with this program, I want to get down to business and really make you understand who you are. And by now you kind of do, and you know where to start searching, like the Bible, for instance, understanding who Christ is and things like that. Feminine energy, what it is, what masculine energy, and how they come together. But then what happens when these things come out of whack? Today's norm, how what today's happening is basically what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah, and that led to destruction. And how you fight against this by being a righteous man. So here are your action steps. Next lessons, winners follow the program step by step. Get the pin up, learn it, take action with it, and comment below what your thoughts are. How do you feel about this lesson? And what do you think would make the lesson even better? I would love to hear it. And remember, small action which allows for bigger action. Take this action, comment below, do it. And remember, good will come to him who is generous and leads freely, who conducts his affairs with justice. Surely he will never be shaken. A righteous man will be remembered forever. He will have no fear of bad news. His heart is steadfast, trusting in the Lord.